Now streaming live on Facebook.
Yeah, there we go.
Aha, we're live on Facebook. Hi, this is Leigh Daniel, and I am here with my co-host Allison Reiner, and this is not legal advice. We have a lovely guest here today. And Caroline, can you tell everybody who you are and what you do? Somebody still got their Facebook on. Leigh Daniel, and I am here with
Let me just check. Definitely not me.
Somebody turn off their computer. Oh, it's me again.
You just like the sound of your own voice.
I did that last week too. Anyway, okay. For those of you watching, it's just the fun we have at the beginning of every show.
Who wants to be
I was good with technology?
Polished.
Anyway, let's go again. Okay, so Caroline, can you just talk to us about what it is that you do, and then we're going to jump right into our topic today.
Hi everyone, this is Caroline from Palmy Healing. I'm here in Switzerland, beautiful Switzerland, surrounded with snow and very peace and calm energy. I'm a heart flow healer. I help my clients to open the doors back up to their hearts so they can get back into the flow of love. And I've been separated about 9 years ago, so that topic about having the kids with your ex and then feeling lonely is really, really dear to my heart.
Oh yeah, that's great, because people always ask me when I'm talking to them about their kids, do you have kids? And I'll be like, no. That doesn't mean I haven't been doing this for 20 years. I know what I'm talking about, but that's great, because so the topic today is about surviving the holidays when your kids are with your ex. And I can tell you, this is a subject that comes up a lot. And Allison works with women who are trying to stay out of this situation. And Allison, do you think that's a fear for people? They're going to not be able to be with their kids?
It's a huge fear, and it's one of those fears that can, that actually keeps you in a marriage for a lot longer than you really want to be there. That fear of how you're going to cope with life without your kids. And then there's also that sense of control that we have, we're human, that we have, where I can do a better job than he can. They're not going to have as much fun with him as he is with me or with her or whomever it happens to be. So yeah, it's a huge fear. And there's also that real difficulty in letting go and just making peace with the fact that you're both parents, you're both parenting to the best of your abilities most of the time. Even if it's not perfect, it's to the best of both of your abilities. But yeah, definitely it's a big one.
And so this past weekend, I had a case where my client had agreed to let his daughter stay with his soon-to-be ex-wife to do some activity that the child was involved in, rather than come and do a Christmas thing with his family. And he got a ton of backlash from his family. And that's also, I think that you're being laden with a lot of guilt, because everybody's pushing and pulling on you. And Caroline, what is people, if you're in that situation, it's usually not even something we can control. Like, we have a court order, but you're suddenly in a situation that you don't want, that you can't control. And what would you tell people when they're in that situation?
Yeah, it's, first of all, don't pick up on the guilt and the pressure. I know it's not just the marriage that breaks apart, but it's sort of the grandparents that go with the couple, and then they sometimes feel they have the right to stay with the ex, and sometimes they push or even bully, their own children to see their grandchildren, or that subtle blameness, like, oh, Christmas is not the same and the children are not here, and that really grandma feeling sorry for everything. And so this is really a great opportunity to listen to your own heart and do what is right for yourself. And really, I think for me, the best thing is, when my kids were away, I didn't even want to spend then the time with my mother or family, then I was really I allowed myself to do whatever felt right for myself. And I think that's the most important thing, especially when you go through a breakup, separation, and then all of a sudden you have all that time alone without your kids, and then you feel like, okay, what am I going to do with myself? It's so unknown, especially when your children are young and you're there for them 24/7, and then all of a sudden you have 2 days with nothing to do, and then you sit in your house alone without the noise of your children, and you really terribly miss them, because this is such unknown territory. But it's also the great opportunity to really apply self-care and self-love and go within and find out what you really love to do, without that this is how it's supposed to be. So it sort of liberates you out of all the convention and what you have to do, and then sort of say, you know what, my kids are not here. Maybe I spend the day in the museum, or I go to the beach, or I just do something for myself,
Right.
And that's a great opportunity.
I hear some feedback. Yeah.
There is some feedback somewhere, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. Caroline, do you have your computer on apart from Zoom?
No, it's just I have everything closed down.
That's odd. Caroline, as you were speaking, I was thinking, that sounds lovely. That is my idea of Christmas heaven. Nobody around. I don't have that luxury, unfortunately.
But Allison, when people are talking to you about, this is something that Allison works with people, obviously, about self-care, loving themselves. I think that a lot of people who have always been taking care of other people, you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your spouse, taking care maybe of your parents, they don't even know where to start.
What that means exactly. And it's it sounds so simple, doesn't it? Self-care. What does that mean? And of course, it's something different for everybody else. And I had a client a while ago, and she turned up on our first call together. And she said, I'm really good at self-care. And she went on for about 15 minutes, listing thing after thing, and exercise after exercise, and meditation and yoga and hot yoga and this and that. And I'm still unhappy. So, well, you're doing these things as a way of avoiding the actual problem, and there's a fine line between actually taking care of yourself and going into avoidance. Self-care is very simply, putting your own needs first. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is absolutely right. For a lot of the time, we actually have to understand what our own needs are, what our own likes are, what we want to do in our own spare time, what lights us up. You get so caught up, not just women who are thinking of divorce, but all women. Mm-hmm. We get so caught up in what we should be doing and the responsibilities we have, and busy lives and busy work and busy with friends and busy. Actually, you stop and you think, I can't remember what I like. I can't remember what I actually like to do, which, that thing that just makes me think, So that's always a good starting point. And if you can't get that, you made me laugh last week when you were talking about, being too stressed to go for a massage.
Oh, yeah.
I understand that completely. I completely get that. We get into that state of tension where the thought of actually having to let go for a bit is impossible. So small steps can be something as small, it's something stupid that I send my clients to do is go and have your nails done. You can't touch your phone. You can't answer your phone. You don't have to talk to anybody. You just sit there still with your own thoughts for an hour.
Well, unless you go to the nail salon that I went to last week, but they talked to you the whole time. I didn't like that, but that's a whole other story. So if this is your first Christmas or first holiday without your kids, and I'm going to ask you, Caroline, I'm about to put you on the hot seat and ask you, if this is your first Christmas that you have experienced where you don't have your children with you, what would you say you could do first to maybe help you get into the frame of mind to even want to discover what it is you want, because a lot of my clients, when they don't have their children, just want to send emails to me and complain. No, I'm just kidding, clients. but you know, because you become angry. Sometimes you're angry, you're resentful, you're sad, you know, you're depressed, and we know that it's okay to have all of those feelings. But what do you do? I mean, if you're in that spot, and you know, what would you tell people to do?
I mean, what I did the very first time my kids went away on the weekend, and then I went with 2 friends. They picked me up and we drove to a hotel and had a spa weekend, and the friends, and we drank too much champagne. And
oh, nice.
It was just, I just needed that. I couldn't face being alone in my house without the kids. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, I thought, so now it's time to face that. And it's, in a way, it's a fact. So they gonna be away. You can either deal with it or fight it, but they still gonna go away. So you can either make the most of it or the worst of it.
Exactly.
And it's like planning a mini vacation. I mean, when I was still married, and my biggest wish was just to have a weekend without kids, without nothing, you know, just peace and quiet. And of course, when it happened, it says, oh, I didn't want it this way, you know. But treat it as if you dropped off your kids at your parents or a babysitter and you have a free weekend or a free couple of days, and plan it as a super special, like a break away from everything, or a break.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if it's my tendency would be, when you're talking, I'm thinking, if I were in that situation, I know I would be the person that wanted to stay home with the curtains closed. I wouldn't want to see anyone. I wouldn't want to do anything. I would want to wallow in my own self-pity, and that, you know, is not the right way.
But actually, that's also good if that's what's needed. I mean, I spent 5 days really crying and huddled over for something else, but it was really, really liberating. And after that, I was like the phoenix rising, you know. Sometimes it needs that. If you really feel that, or just want to wallow in that piece, that's okay. It needs that time also. So if you just want to get a glass of wine, watch movies, or just hide under the blanket, because sometimes especially with little kids, you're so busy all the time. All you need is to lie on the settee and with a blanket or something. And I don't want to see many people. That's good, because if you plan too much, sometimes it's like pushing down that feeling or that sadness and trying to overcompensate on the other side. But of course, if you're really sad and maybe feel depressed, then of course it's important to talk to someone and find help. You know, it's
right. To move through it, instead of just every single time they're gone, you know, going, okay, they're gone, I'm hitting the bed or the bottle or whatever, you know. That's so right. That's not what we want you to do.
Yeah, and that goes back to our other conversations, doesn't it, about forgiveness? It takes us back to last week. All you're doing is making yourself suffer because somebody else has got what you want, your kids. It's no way. And yeah, everyone's got their own way through any of these situations. For me, definitely, I wouldn't be sitting home with the curtains closed. And I was thinking again of what...
I'm replacing you as a host. No!
I was thinking about what Josie shared with us, you know, in that situation, doing something completely different, something that doesn't associate with Christmas, with your kids, with anything you've done before, going and doing, you know, sort of feeding the homeless or visiting an orphanage, or, you know, even helping out in your local church, just something that takes you out of your own head.
Yeah,
you know, rather than
the dog to the Humane Society.
Yeah, or even.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because sometimes, especially if you're a full-time mom, your friends are moms, you know.
Right.
So it's sometimes nice to maybe reconnect with people who are also single, maybe single, no kids, or old school friends, or and don't maybe do the regular stuff like sitting at your parents' home and then everybody's feeling sorry because the kids are not there. But just do something fun, or something you would have done maybe as a teenager or something, or pre-kids, something, rekindle something you really like to do before you had kids.
Like I found that I really like the adult coloring book. So you guys can put it down if you want, and never Google adults coloring book, because you're going to get a bunch of coloring books with penises. And you don't want that. Or I didn't want that. But they have coloring books that are for people, not for kids. I like the ones that are not. And it is something that's soothing. And, I have a client who says he draws a lot now. And I've asked my clients, why don't you try journaling? Or why don't you try, I have one client, because I represent a lot of men as well as women. Why don't you go camping? Why don't you, doing some different things? The most important part is doing something like Caroline first started with, doing something that you love. But when you were talking a second ago, I thought it's about the story. It's what story are you telling yourself? And so you got to change the story. You don't have to, but if you can just change that story about why you're alone, it can either be, I have this great weekend, or I have these days to do whatever I want, or it can be, I am alone and my kids are else, you can get into this victims. Yeah. So really it's just about changing the story you're telling yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's the way forward. It's not always that simple to change the story, though, and I think you have to go through that. The first Christmas is never going to be easy. Maybe you don't want to spend the whole time with your family. You don't want to be reminded that that things have changed, that your lifestyle has changed and whatever. But definitely, I would say you want to make sure that you spend some time with other people. You don't want to cut yourself off. You want to be in company, even if one of the biggest lessons that I learned is I can be in company saying absolutely nothing, being myself because I'm not feeling particularly happy. And the people that love me are perfectly happy to let me do that. I don't need to go in. And I think that's, that's something that we always think is we have to put that front on, pretend that we're happy, pretend that we're coping. And people, people see through it, but also the people that love you are quite happy to let you sit quietly flicking through the TV and staring at the ceiling, because they want to know that you're there and you're safe. So I think to make sure at least part of the time you're in company so that you're not in your head, I would say.
And I would say something that we were talking about the family, like my client earlier, like his mother was fighting with his wife. And he sent me this, I'm going to have a heart attack. I mean, his blood pressure is just skyrocketed. And he is really scared for his health right now. And, I know if you're a family member that might be watching this, just try to keep in mind that the person who's going through this is already stressed. They're already feeling this tension. And if you put more of that, and I know it might be your inclination because you love them to want to complain about the other spouse, to want to, you want to know what's going on. You want to ask lots of questions, but you're really hurting that person by not just being loving and supportive for them. And I know that you're acting out of your best interest. I mean, out of their best, you think you are, but it's really hard on everybody. And I would just urge you not to get in that place of all of you sitting around just complaining and bitching about the other person, because that just really increases the tension and anxiety. So what can you tell, now, Allison, I know you have some nuggets. What can you tell your parents, your mom, your siblings? Because I have another client whose sister wanted to call me. I think a lot of times I represent the men, and the females in their life think that the men can't tell me that their story. So they have the females call me and tell me, or I have clients that come in with their mom, who I love moms, but they'll come in and they'll tell me all the bad things about the other spouse. So, what do you tell?
Hilarious. That's hilarious. I mean, that's really, out of the frying pan into the fire, wife back to your mother, from your mother to your wife. I mean, that's that's fantastic.
It's not. It's
no, it's not.
I can just see the stress. I can just see the stress when somebody comes in and their mother will be, and I love you mothers, if your mothers are watching, I know, and my mother would be the same way. You want to protect your child, but I can just see the stress and the tension because they're already dealing with it internally. And now externally, they have not only their ex-spouse or their soon-to-be ex-spouse, they have their family member, their sister, or their mother, So
they're stuck in the middle.
Parent, that for those family members who love you so much, but that you really need for them to give you a break. I mean, how do you say that in a nice, sweet way?
Probably not the person to ask.
No, you're right. I'm not asking you. Caroline, how do you?
I think just take a deep breath and say, I can handle that on my own. Thank you, Mom. Thanks for being here and supporting me. But this is really between my spouse and I and my children. I love your input, but maybe not at this time.
Right.
And this is really important. And I think another thing that many parents do is then putting out the fear. Oh, will she or he be able to look after them? Will she feed them? Will they have enough food? Will they be looked after? And then you already, you wonder, will the partner be able to handle the kids on their own without you being there, especially if you're a woman? And then if everybody tells you or puts more fears into your head about what's going to happen, and so it's really, I think what I loved most is just that people just gave me a hug. And said,
oh, yeah.
Just if you have someone in your life, excuse me, who is going through a separation and might not have their kids, just hug them and tell them, I can sense this is a hard time for you. Is there anything I can help you with? What would you love us to do for you?
That's so sweet.
The most important thing, listen rather than giving advice, because there's so much going on in our head and we feel lonely and lost. And so it's really nice if others just take you in their arms and say, you know what? I know it's a tough time. Let's make the best out of it. And in 2-3 days, your kids will be back home happy. They have spent a great time with your ex-spouse. And it was just an experience. It's like an adventure. I think it's just, if we can get into that adventurous spirit, it's so much easier to carry.
Right. And then another question that I have, I think that those are great things to say. And another question, and you brought it up, Caroline, is that when you don't have your kids with you, unfortunately, there's a tendency to start imagining the worst that may be happening. Now, it's not so much that the kids are not taken care of from the people that I represent. It's more that, are they taking them around new boyfriends or girlfriends I don't want them to be around? Or, what are they getting at their house that they're not getting at my house? Like, there's that, I want to have the best Christmas for them, right? And there becomes a little one-upmanship to make sure that you give the best Christmas experience to your child, and that is not good for your children. I don't have to have kids to know that. But how, Allison, I'll let you speak first. How can you get out of that place of one-upmanship or wanting to control everything that goes on when the kids are not with you?
I think you go back to that, you remind yourself that you can't control other people. You can't control that situation. If logically, that they're being well fed, that they're being looked after, they're clean, they're warm, and they're having some good fun. Let's be honest, this is a man or a woman that you spend X amount of years with, looking after your children as a co-parent. It's not that suddenly they lost all those skills. So, if you're sure that, in your heart of hearts, they're secure, they're happy, they're loved, they're well fed, they're warm. Let it go.
Right.
Let it go, because again, the only person, well, it's not the only person, but the first person you're hurting is yourself, because you're playing stories in your own head. You're never going to be the winner in that story. But then you're putting your kids in that position where they feel that they're pulled from one to the other. They're always worried about what they say when they come home. Did you have a good time? What's the right answer to that? Is it yes or no?
Right.
It's not fair on them, because, let's be honest, both of you want them to have a good time. Whether you agree, whether you want each other to have a good time is another matter. But, you both invested in the kids. You want them to have as much fun as possible. So, step out of your own way and just, acknowledge that you're going to feel like it and get busy doing something else.
Caroline, you're frozen. You're lovely to look at, but you're frozen. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. I think I got the message that my internet connection is a bit unstable.
I see you. I see you smile now. Okay, I think it's working again.
But you froze beautifully. Normally when I freeze, I look like some sort of alien, but you froze with a beautiful, serene look in your face.
Yeah, we're glad, because I would have cut you right off. I'm just so Caroline, what do you tell people if they are trying to? And I know we all, even when not so much, but so I have dogs, lots of them. And when I'm gone out of town, I worry sometimes about what the dog, how the dogs are doing, especially if they're not with somebody that I trust. But I think that, I'm not talking about legitimate questions. I'm not talking about, legitimate, are they doing okay? I'm talking about when you should know that the kids are safe, but yet, like I have one lady where she said, if you have your new girlfriend there, I will make your life hell. I have it in text message. She's like, I will destroy you if your new girlfriend comes to the school play. This is like a holiday school event. That is not good. That is not the right thing to do. But how can you help people move from that wanting to control, and that, it has its basis in fear for sure. But what do you do if you're that person who is having those kind of feelings?
I think this is it's more like jealousy, or still trying to be in his life or something. And it's
or
just
her life.
Or, in your partner's ex-partner's life. And it's just about thinking about the kids. I think that's just the key, Is it really troubling the kid if he brings his new spouse to the fair? Is it a bother, or is it really just you? And really stepping away from that and knowing that you are a mother and you stay the mother of your children. No one is going to take the kids away from you. And they just gained a new friend or an auntie or something, if you see that perspective, and just remember, the kids, they feel it. You don't even have to speak words, but they really have such a good sensory. And if you're making trouble just to sort of vex your ex, or just because whatever, you can't accept the situation, or because maybe you feel a bit inferior, is that really the best way to deal with it with the kids? I don't at my graduation of my oldest, I didn't sit next to my ex. They sat at a different place, and that was okay. I don't want to pretend, smile or anything, but it's just make the best version. If you don't want your ex to sit next to you at that performance, that's okay. I think the kids can really see, this is mom, this is dad, and they don't need for you to be pretend to be happy or speak on speaking terms if you're not truly.
Right.
I think that's really, and be honest. Just talk child appropriate age. But when I moved here to the new place, I told my kids, you know what? I know you might want to show the new place to your dad, but I don't want to have him in this new place. This is mine. This is ours now. And so And they understood, and I said, oh no, that's okay, and that's perfect. I think if you can speak on an age appropriate level to your children, be honest as good as it goes, like, it hurts me seeing your dad with his new girlfriend, or it's really a hard situation for me to handle, or I can't be really nice to your dad, I'm still hurt. This is good for the child, because sometimes the children still feel like they blame themselves forever, like it's their fault, if they've been better or nicer, the parents would still be together. And also they might have the hope to bring the parents together. So it's really important we are honest with ourselves and honest with our children.
Yeah, except if you live in Madison County, absolutely do not talk to your children about the case. We have a prohibition in Madison County against discussing the issues or in the surrounding areas, the issues of the divorce or the case with your children. And so I would say, just as a caveat, even though this is not legal advice, that especially if your case is going on, not to talk to your children about the case. You can tell them that you're not feeling good. They obviously know that, but don't mention anything about the other party, because it's not allowed. So I just had to add that.
I think also it's a difficult one. That there's a fine line between having that honest conversation and going back into blame. Mm-hmm. And I think you can only have that honest conversation when you're pretty much over it yourself.
Yes.
You've made peace with it. Otherwise, and I'm talking again from my own personal experience, not just with my husband, but whenever I have those situations that I'm not particularly comfortable about, there's got to be a certain period of time before I can honestly say how I'm feeling without wanting something from the other person, without them saying, "Oh, poor you." So I think that's quite a fine line that we tread. But what I was also thinking is, so many of my clients have no idea that they're actually causing any harm to their children.
Right.
They don't have that awareness of, my behavior is actually impacting beyond if I'm physically abusive to my husband, or wife, if I'm actually saying bad words against him or to him or about him. They don't understand that that the other behavior is actually still causing damage. And do you have any thoughts? Actually, maybe you're the better one, Leigh. Do you have any thoughts on how you could?
Well, and I think I want to come back to what Allison said is exactly right, because when you talk with your children, like Caroline was saying, you have to first. And I think that's dead on the difference in what the judges and courts are trying to avoid in Madison County is people casting blame on the other parent and poisoning the children in the midst of the case, because that is the tendency that's what happens. It's your dad's fault, it's your mom's, and they play the kids against each other. And that's why the courts say, do not talk about this. And that's because they have to first be in that healed place where they're not still casting blame and making the other person the enemy and being in the victim, because you don't want your children to be loaded up with these feelings that they have to take sides. Like if you say, it makes the children, it puts them in the middle. And all I can say is, until you're clear, until you've worked through it on your own, you need to you don't need to make your children part of your pain. You need to deal with that internally first, or with a professional like Allison or Caroline who can help you work through this pain, because you don't want to cause a rift between the child and the other parent. And if you haven't worked through it, they're going to feel that, right? I think the first step is working with a professional like the two of you to deal with those emotional things. I can help with the legal side, but a lot of times people really need emotional help when they're going through a divorce. Need a lot more than I can possibly. I mean, the people that stand at this door and cry, you know, they'll cry when we're talking about the situation, but then as they're leaving me, knowing that I'm one person that's listened to them, they'll just start crying right at the door, you know, and I'll give them a hug. But, you know, there are people like the two of you who can help deal with this, because all of these, you know, the loneliness and the, all the things we've talked about today stem from not having healed your own heart yet.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's something that I see a lot with the, you know, women come to me because they want to save their marriage. Not a lot of the time. Often they decide as they've gone through the process that, yeah, when they change what needs to be changed in themselves, their partner isn't prepared to meet them halfway, and therefore the decision is clear. They need to then leave them. They want to leave the marriage, but at that point they understand, and I went through the same thing myself, that they're not emotionally strong enough, that they're not resilient enough to go through this and be able to hold space for themselves and for their children. So there's a lot of work that has to go on in the background before you even get to the point. You know, this is if you've got the luxury of time, of course. If you're in a position that you're just thinking about it, a lot of times, yeah, women or men find that they've been served with divorce papers and they've got nothing, you know, they've got nothing to do about it. But, you know, if you're in that place that you're actually thinking about it seriously, then do the work beforehand to become, you know, strong enough to deal with the loneliness, the sadness, the anger, the bad words that are going to be hurled in your direction. Because let's be honest, we're human and we feel when we're hurt people. So you're going to, you know, you're going to be hurt. You're going to hear some hurtful things about yourself, and you need to be strong enough to take that on and not react and not take it out on the kids, even if that is just bad mouthing your partner in front of the kids. It's got such a terrible, terrible effect.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Caroline? I know you have had, you know, you've gone through a lot with your ex, and it was not an ideal partnership. And how do you deal with that when it comes to communicating with your children?
I mean, first of all, I wanted to clarify when I said about talking to your children, I thought about your own feelings. You know, it wasn't about putting the blame on the other.
No, I know that. That's what it's where you're coming from, for sure.
And sometimes it's hard because my children, because I try to be perfect and do everything right, my kids then somehow felt I don't feel the pain. And that was sort of a little, till I told them that I really feel hurt too, you know, and that was a good bonding point. Now, for me, it's a bit different because my ex is a narcissist and my kids were never emotionally safe there. He blamed them when they were homesick for mommy. He let them cry instead of, even when I called them, because when my youngest was never wanted to go and cried, and then I sent a text and said it's fine, and he said, oh, everything is fine, but then he was crying all the time. So for me it's a different situation because I never felt they're secure when they were with my ex. But it's really it's important to let go of your ex, you know, when you're really at the stage that the marriage is done, and clear that relationship, you know, clear out the pain, clear it away. And yeah, you can talk to your ex silently in your room or in your head. You can vent it all out, but I wouldn't do it in front of your children. And what really helped me, I read in one book when I was going through my divorce, that the children, they are half father, half mother. So if you talk badly about their father, for example, in my case, you are talking badly about half of their being. So I think if you have that in mind,
right, that's good.
That's really important to see that they are still, they know part like their father, and they love their father. And if you talk badly about their father, you're actually talking badly about part of your child as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. And that's actually what happened to me. I had, my mother who badmouthed my father at every turn. And I'm very like my father, and not just in looks. And I took that to heart. Well, if he's like that and I'm part of him, right, we've got the shower going, then that must mean that I'm useless, worthless, and whatever. So yeah, you do, of course, you take it up, because we're always looking to, whether we're aware of it or not, we're always looking to find our place in our parents. We're looking to see, do I have his nose or her ears, or whose bad temper is this, or we're always looking for that part in us. So we have a violin in the background that's playing Jingle Bells badly. Maybe I'll get Olivia to come in and sing us out, or violin us out as soon as it's last.
I think that what I also want people that are maybe watching, that if you have, and this is what I was talking about earlier, if you do have a situation where you have legitimate concerns, like Caroline had about her children, if you have an ex-spouse who's narcissistic or has a mental illness or may have an addiction problem, then, a lot of the things that we're saying are not applicable. You may have, there may be some real genuine concerns. There may be a reason for you to take action to prevent them from having the same kind of visitation or spending time, or your fears may be founded, and, there may be something proactively that you need to do. But for the purposes of today, I was really talking about people who don't have that concern. But Caroline does have a lot of experience with working with people who have narcissistic personality disorders, and how to navigate that and how to deal with that. And that's a whole nother realm of, this is not legal advice. That's a huge topic. And it really, Caroline, tell people a little bit about how you help them work through having been married to a narcissist, because I know it's really hard to get through after you've been in those kind of relationships.
Yes, it's definitely harsh, especially if you're an empath, and it's usually the empath together with the narcissist.
Yeah.
That special bond. And first of all, it's liberating yourself, because that narcissist, they still try to manipulate you. They put the blame on you, like getting an email or saying, oh, your kids are so badly behaved when they're with me. And then I just started laughing. I said, oh, actually, they're really well behaved with me. I mean, you must be doing something wrong. But, it takes effort, because especially if the marriage or the relationship was long, the empath is really lost complete sense of themselves. It's like me, when I woke up of that marriage, I had no idea who I was anymore. So it's a two-part scheme. First of all, clear that relationship, put up boundaries, and then step up for yourself, reconnecting with yourself, with your true essence and your joy, and allowing yourself to be who you are, and give up those people pleasing or trying to please a narcissist, which is impossible anyway. So I do wonderful sessions. I think the time is not long enough to really do that now here, but it's just really cut and clear that relationship, so that you, as the empath or the partner or ex-partner of a narcissist, can really clear away that debris, that tar that is still sticking with you from that person, and get better in stepping up, speaking up, and being true to yourself, because otherwise you just get blamed for everything and anything, and of course you take it on. It's really time to let go, release, and step away.
Right. And I've had just a teeny bit of experience with narcissists. Yeah. And it definitely will set you back. So it's almost time for us to go. So Caroline, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
It's Palmy Healing, Palmy Healing. And you can find me on Facebook, on my homepage, palmyhealing.com. yeah, I'm just happy.
Palmy Healing.
Yeah.
Palmy Healing. Allison?
You can find me here on PPC or on my homepage, which is Allison Reiner, or you can visit my website, AllisonReiner.com.
All right, and me, you can find me on Project Positive Change and also right here on Starmont Circle in Huntsville, Alabama. And we wish everybody a happy holidays, whether you have your children with you or you are not with your children or you're single. Whatever stage that you're in, we hope that you have a wonderful holiday. And we won't be here next week because of the holidays and travel and things like that. But we'll be back the next week, hopefully, with an amazing. Is Sam Livermore the next time?
No, it's actually Louise Cartwright, and we're going to look at our money stories to get ready for.
All right, we're looking at our money stories, which if you're going through a divorce, money story is important. Or if you're after the divorce, it's an important topic. So thank you so much, Caroline, for being part of our conversation today. We love you and have a Merry Christmas.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, bye, bye.